shore leave, and they would follow him. You know, some of the guys thought
They wouldn't even come for payday.
some of the guys thought Bill was a Japanese. Bill said a very tall Japanese. They thought he was a
Northern Japan.
Yeah, they thought he was an enemy. So he had to convince them that no, just call me Jersey. My name is Jersey. You know, he had to convince them he was an American sailor. So that he lied to him basically to get him to come with him. So he stayed in the water with those men, and the Higgins boat went back, unloaded, came back, and they got the rest of them. So Bill stayed in the water quite a bit of time, and by that time Bill was getting a little weak and sick himself from swallowing all that delicious oil, right, Bill? Oil and salt water. Yeah. That was making him throw up.
How long did it take for the boat to go back to the bigger boat?
Bill got me.
What's that?
How long did it take for the Higgins boat to go back and unload and then come back? Was that like
I have no.
15 minutes?
Seemed like a
probably,
lifetime, but
right.
it could have been too long.
That-
Because I only had 4 or 5, and I found 3 or 4 more, so there was about 10 of us out there at the end. When they,
15
but
minutes,
they were
maybe
waiting
15
for us
minutes,
to
half
get back so they could head for Lady Gulf and unload.
And I know you were a good swimmer, but did you have a life jacket on too through this?
Oh no.
No?
I had left, I was gun captain with a 5-inch gun, and my job was to take the 54-pound shells, and you couldn't wear anything on there. Well, it was a single mount, and it wasn't enough harder. You had to go outside to change your mind.
Yeah,
Real small, so no life jacket.
at the
Couldn't
presentation.
have worn it anyway.
At the presentation we had at the high school, somebody asked Bill, "What was your biggest concern?" They thought he was going to say the sharks. You know what he said? That they wouldn't come back to get me.
Yeah.
He said it felt like a lifetime, you know, but probably wasn't
Now,
that.
I thought sooner or later they'd be up, but
Yeah.
how are they going to find us?
So dark, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he was afraid they wouldn't be able to find him.
So I would just wait and keep going, drift a little to the left, because they would pull the LCBP up. They had to cut the power because the screw back there would chew them up. They didn't want to. So we just go drift and try to guess where we could beat someplace. But they were a good crew.
I got some pictures here of the deck of the Indianapolis the following morning. We'll look at this later. The guys are all sprawled out. And what happened? The crew of the Bassett, they had to wash all the oil off the men with.
We used oil to work oil. We used diesel oil
Diesel
to
oil
work
to
the
wash
bunker
the
seed,
bunker oil
heavy
off, yeah.
oil.
They had like a thinner to get that junk off of them. Then after that, then they washed them with soap and water and gave them clothes.
You could tell when they were wounded, because the minute the diesel oil, which was much thinner and cut, was like kerosene,
Hurt.
when they hit something underneath,
They screamed. But that was the only way they could get this bunker oil was black heavy oil, so they had to take it off with this diesel oil. So it was not a pleasant experience for them. I also got here, this is the ship's log. This shows one of the here's the ensign that was on Bill's LCBP, and another ensign that actually provided some eyewitness affidavit for me to get Bill's medal. This is a list of all the survivors that they dropped off at the base hospital. When Bill came home from the war, he didn't talk about his experience, which is pretty common for people that experience traumatic things during the war. They don't talk about what they did. And many years went by, and no one knew that Bill had taken part in the rescue. And it kind of came out by accident in the 90s. And from there, the VFW sought to get Bill a medal. And Bill never wanted him. He just told him, "I don't need a medal. You know, please don't even. You don't have to do it. It's not necessary."
I was too old to enjoy it.
So, but Angelo, I don't know if you remember Angelo Miranda, passed away a couple years. He kept pushing on it.
Charlie Travato.
Charlie Travato and Angelo, yep, and they kept pushing it. And one day in 2004 in July, like I ran into Angelo at the carnival, and he asked me if I'd help him out. And I said, yeah, all right, I'll give it a try. I talked to Mayor Hackstrom and asked him if he'd mind if I picked up the ball more or less, because Mayor Hackstrom had been trying through Congressman Rokeman's office, and they weren't having much luck. The congressman's office in this case is kind of a go-between between you and whatever branch of the service you're going through. They don't do the work for you. They just kind of point you in the right direction. They get you the forms and tell you what you have to do. So I went to Garrett's office, and they gave me some forms. I got the ball rolling, and I got a letter from the Navy in September of '04, and that laid out the criteria for getting a medal for life-saving heroism, because that's what I wanted to know. I mean, the medals, like if you're in World War II and you want a medal for having been in World War II, those kind of medals, they just look up your records and they send them to you. But the medals for heroism, all the branches of the service have specific criteria for getting them, and they don't vary. You can't say, well, congressman or senator call up and, hey, give this guy a medal. It doesn't work that way. They have their rules and regulations, and they take this stuff very seriously, how they award the medals. So what I found out from the Navy was they required 3 notarized eyewitness affidavits, and one had to be from a superior officer. Now I had the name of an officer, Ensign Peter Wren. I had his name and address in a letter that Angelo had gave me, so I contacted him and told him what I needed from him. And from there, I set out to find some more witnesses because I didn't have enough. And through all my research, I found out on the USS Indianapolis Survivors website. At that time, they had emails listed of all the survivors. They took it off. It's not on there anymore, I noticed. But they had a list of all the survivors that had email. They had their email on there. I mean, emailed every one of them. And everybody and his brother that had anything to do with the Indianapolis, I tried to track them down and see if they knew of anyone who was there then that could be a witness. And I did actually contact a couple of survivors. One was Paul Murphy. He was the chairman of the Survivors Organization. And there was a couple other ones. And they all remember being rescued by the Bassett, but they could not remember specifically who pulled them out of the water because they were in such bad shape at that time. It was dark, they were sick, they were tired. They said, I know the Bassett picked me up, but I don't know who picked me up. So I thought to myself, well, I'm going to have to find somebody from Bill's ship, because the survivors, they just couldn't be that specific. They were not healthy enough to do that. So one of the contacts I had made through email had pointed me to a guy named Earl Hoodelin. And Earl was a cook aboard the Bassett. And he actually, to this day, Earl still sends me emails 3 years after Bill got his medal. And Earl helped me locate 2 more shipmates, which was great. I sent them letters, told them what I needed, and I'm going to read you one of those letters. This is from, I wound up with 4 eyewitness affidavits, 3 shipmates, and 1 was the superior officer. I'll just read you one of them. You can look. I have them all in here. This is from Jack Paul in from Livonia, Michigan. Dear Councilman Balunis, I served on the USS Bassett, APD 73, with Bill Van Wilpe in 1945. At that time, I was a fireman, first class trained as a motor mechanic on one of the Bassett's LCPPs. I was responsible for the diesel engine and associated mechanical parts, including the ramp. Bill was the ship's company gunner's mate. Now, this is part of the requirement the Navy says. You have to identify who you are, what your position was during the rescue. Okay? The night of the rescue, upon reaching our destination, the LCVPs were lowered to search for men in the water. At that time, the LCVP had the normal 3-man crew plus an officer. Upon locating USS Indianapolis survivors, we attempted to hoist them aboard without causing further injury and pain. Failing in this, we returned to the ship for additional help. Bill Van Wilpe was one of the men we took aboard to help us. Returning to men in the water, Bill saw the problem we were confronted with. He figured if he could swim out to the men, he could lead them back to the LCVP stern and push each man up to the people helping in the boat. It was a great idea. Bill dived in and began the process that saved many men in the water from losing hope and suffering more pain. He also stayed in the water with the survivors while the LCVP returned to the ship to unload. Doing this, Bill risked serious injury or even death from being drowned by delirious and confused survivors, shark attack, and ingesting heavy fuel oil covering the area. Bill was not ordered to do this, but saw what had to be done and took the initiative that saved many lives. He deserves recognition and an appropriate medal from the Navy for his life-saving act. And the other letters are in the same mode. In fact, the officer, Peter Wren, he wrote an even more detailed description and a recommendation, which I have all here, and you're all welcome to look at this.
Excuse me, Tom, did you put those in the book?
Actually, yes. Every letter I got from the shipmates are in the book. In fact, everything in here is in the book except for these. I have some newspaper articles. Now, there's one thing, just to kind of wrap up, then I'll ask any questions. I want to read you the citation that came with Bill's medal. The medal he got is called the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps Medal for Heroism, for life-saving heroism. Okay? This is the citation that came with the medal. Chief of Naval Operations. The President of the United States takes pleasure in presenting the Navy and Marine Corps Medal to Gunner's Mate, 3rd Class, William E. Van Wilpe, United States Naval Reserve, for service as set forth in the following. Citation. For heroism while serving aboard USS Bassett, APD 73, on 3rd of August 1945. With utter disregard for his own safety and cognizant of the sharks preying on the survivors of the USS Indianapolis while they hung onto floater net for 5 nights in the Philippine Sea, Petty Officer Van Wilpe plunged into the sea to help rescue the survivors. Through his endurance, strong swimming skills, and reassuring calls to the men, he enabled the rescue boats to recover 159 of the 317 men. Though nauseous and retching from swallowing the surface bunker oil, Petty Officer Van Wilpe remained in the shark-infested waters until all survivors on the net were recovered. In one particular incident, 3 survivors slipped off the LCVP into the water, and without hesitation, Petty Officer Van Wilpe jumped in after them and came up with not one, but all 3 in his arms. Without his brave actions, many of the hallucinating men would have perished there on the sea. By his courageous and prompt actions in the face of great personal risk, Petty Officer Van Wilpe undoubtedly saved countless lives, therefore reflecting great upon himself and upholding the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. For the President, B.E. Clark, Admiral of the United States Navy, Chief of Naval Operations. That incident with the three men that he pulled out of the water, that was when the LCVP came back to the Bassett, and like I said, the waves were 8-10 foot swells. 3 guys fell out. They fell out of the LCVP, and they started to sink. Bill dove in and managed to grab all 3 of them. I don't know how he got all 3 and could stay afloat, but he did it. And that was one of the Earl Hoodling, one of the shipmates. He was a cook, so he was on the deck. He wasn't on the LCVP. He witnessed that, so he was a witness to see that. The other guys were actually out there with Bill, and they were witnesses to that. So that was a pretty incredible. I also have in here the proclamation from the mayor. Mayor Hagstrom declared April 2nd, 2005 as William Van Wilpe Day. That was the day we had a medal ceremony at the First Aid Squad. I've got some pictures here. This was a placard that was on a car. In 2007, the city of Indianapolis had a parade for the Indianapolis survivors and the rescuers. And they've got a museum out there and a memorial in Indianapolis where they hold their reunion there every year in Indianapolis. And Bill's been going the last few years. This is Earl, one of Bill's shipmates. He lives in New York State. He was at the medal ceremony. Here's Bill being led down the aisle by Kathy on while Anchors Away was being played. That was pretty cool. There's some people giving. See, Congressman Garrett gave a speech. I gave a speech. Several people gave a speech. Earl spoke. I got to tell you, that day Bill received his medal. The shortest speech of the day was from Bill, and he was that's a he doesn't want to talk about it. But Earl and Bill traded barbs back and forth. They joked around quite a bit. But here's some nice pictures here. Here's one where Bill received his medal. Bill posing with the fire department. I also have it here because this guy was very integral to the whole thing going forward. Is I wanted these pictures in here. This is the War Memorial, World War II Memorial at Memorial Field. And I think at that time during the war there was less than 4,000 people living in Wanaque. Between 3,000 and 4,000, but almost 400 people from Wanaque served in World War II, which is incredible if you take the percentage of the population. And Angelo Miranda is in the center here, and I just wanted him to be in here too because he was the guy that kept it going. He never gave up. Let's say letters from the shipmates, from the Navy, and it's a couple of congratulatory things. But so you're all welcome to look at that. And there's some of the pictures are in the book too. Say I had a photographer in Wanaque take that photo for us. And that's about it. Does anybody have any questions? Myself or Bill can answer questions.
Did Mayor Hagstrom know that, was he still alive? Did he know that Bill was going to get the medal?
Yeah.
He did know.
Yep. Yeah, he was trying to go through Congressman Rokeman's office. He was forwarding all the stuff that Angelo was collecting, letters and things. But I don't know. It just never panned out there. They didn't. I just think that Congressman Rokeman's office didn't give them the veterans the proper guidance on what they had to do.
Right.
More or less, the things I was hearing is they were discouraging the vets. They were telling them, like, well, this is hard to get a medal like this. They're really hard to get.
They really didn't help.
And, you know, so much time. Yeah, they kind of told them that, you know, these are hard to get. But I'm hard-headed. So when they asked me, you know, I said, I'm going to. What I knew, what I had learned about the whole incident, I looked at this, I said, if he's not a hero, you got to tell me why, you know. So I told Angelo, don't worry, if they don't give us a medal, they're gonna have to tell me why, you know, because if I get them all the things that they say that they require, we should get it. And you know, I just kept going and pushing, and it took. I started in July of 2004, and we got it finally in February, March 2005. It takes months. Because what happens is you provide them with all the documentation, and then they have a review board. And the review board looks at all the information, and they decide what medal you get or if you get a medal. And this review board kept on postponing getting together because one member wasn't there. And I kept nagging the congressman's office. I said, come on, we've been waiting a long time for this, you know, so that's where I asked Garrett to get on the phone and kind of like pester him a little bit to get him to, because we kept getting excuses while they wouldn't meet. Finally we got a decision from him, so.
So
Took
just
a long
being very
time, but-
persistent, you know,
Yeah,
just bothering
yeah.
you.
They were asking for the wrong medal.
Yeah.
Garrett found out that
Right.
instead of asking for a Bronze Star or Silver Star or
Yeah.
something, you got to go for life saving.
Right.
Because the Navy says if you weren't aboard that ship when it was torpedoed, then it's not a wartime condition. They lost 880 men, but they figured it wasn't a combat situation. It was spread over 5 days.
What I did when I went to Garrett's office, they said, what medal do you want to go for? I said, wait a minute. We're not going to tell them. They got to tell us. We'll give you the information, and you give it to the Navy, and let the Navy tell us what he qualifies for. And from what I was told, to get the Bronze Star, you have to be in battle. You have to be, like if Bill was in the water and they were shooting at him, then you get that's the only difference, is under combat conditions. But what I told the Congressman's office to tell the Navy is, we're giving you the information, you tell us what he qualifies for. And that's what they did. They came back, because actually Mr. Wren recommended a similar medal, the Navy Commendation Medal, but the Navy came back with the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps Medal, which was for life-saving heroism. So,
How long did that rescue operation take, Bill?
What's that?
How long did it take for this rescue? Approximately.
For us, it took from about 20 after 12 to about 5:30 the next morning.
Wow, that's quite a bit of time.
Because according to our records, about 20 to 6 in the morning, we headed for the Philippines for the island.
That was great. You're a brave man, Bill.
Absolutely. You said that they had sent the distress.
There's a lot of brave people out there, aren't there?
yeah.
A lot of them drowned, trying to take care of their shipmates. They were the real. They're the real McCoy.
I was going to say with the distress signal that they sent out, it took actually 5 days for them to get on site to try to rescue these
You know what
guys.
happened? I kind of glossed over that part. The distress signals were sent, and a couple were confirmed that they received, but the upper command said, well, no, we don't have any confirmation of this, so they kind of ignored it. The reason how they were discovered was a plane. A plane was flying overhead, and they thought that they saw an oil slick, and they thought, well, maybe a Japanese submarine that's disabled. Let's go in and finish them off. And when they went down lower, from up there, all they see is an oil slick, shiny oil slick. They got lower, they saw the men in the water. So that was when they first got discovered. And from that point, they radioed the coordinates to different ships and planes. People started.
They never had a chance to send out an SOS, huh?
They did.
They
They
did, but
did.
they didn't confirm it.
But
Oh.
Because the ship had sunk so
it
fast.
was confirmed that 2 places received the SOS from the Indianapolis. But they went down so fast, it couldn't be confirmed. And they wouldn't accept it as, maybe it's just bogus from the Japanese.
Yeah, thinking maybe the Japanese were just
Yeah.
trying to lure them in
Yep.
like a booby trap.
Were they running alone out there, or were they in a convoy?
They were alone.
They
And
were
the
alone.
captain, McVeigh, asked for an escort and was denied an escort. He was told that he didn't need it, there wasn't one available,
Nice.
and usually under those conditions they were given an escort,
Yeah.
but they weren't. And actually, this is an offshoot of it, but Captain McVeigh was court-martialed by the Navy for failure to zigzag. That's what they tell the ship to make it harder to get hit by a torpedo, by a submarine, you zigzag.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be not really true, because the commander of the Japanese submarine that sunk the Indianapolis said it wouldn't have made no difference to me whether it was zigzagging or not. He came up, they were right in front of me, I couldn't miss, more or less.
Right.
So he was court-martialed, and many years later, he was exonerated. Unfortunately, he committed suicide in, I think, 1960, 65, he committed suicide. So he never saw the exoneration.
Wow.
He had been receiving all kinds of hate mail,
Yes, yeah.
and the wife was like, making sure that he didn't see this hate mail, like Christmas cards that, thanks
You
for
believe that?
you killed my son or whatever.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And
Because,
she died,
When,
and so he started receiving all this
Yeah.
stuff.
when he was court-martialed, I take it that family members that lost their sons or brothers or whatever, they figured, well, court-martial must be his fault. So that he, like she said, he got hate mail,
Oh, my goodness.
and he just
That's
couldn't take it he just couldn't take it anymore. But none of the shipmates in the Indianapolis, they all swore that it wasn't his fault, and they backed him up. And they pushed to get him exonerated, and he finally was exonerated, I think, in 1999. President Clinton signed the order, and they exonerated him of any wrongdoing.
Bill, you're back on the ballot now with the survivors. Now, according,
I can't hear what you said.
He can't hear.
okay, according to the book, you slept for 36 hours afterwards, right? When you woke up, what did you feel? Were you in a dream? Did you?
I felt hungry.
I bet. I bet.
Now, I think we only had a doctor aboard, and one chief pharmacist and one assistant. So when you hand them 150-some people to take care of, we had to call for help, and the destroyer captain in charge of that ships in that area, he sent us his doctor. And he real nice. That doctor, Dr. Stiles, stayed with us until we unloaded him at the island of Samar and the Lady Gulf. And I think when they got me aboard, I think Dr. Pruitt, our doctor, gave me something to sleep. And during the excitement, I think Dr. Stiles didn't know that he gave me something, and he gave me something else. I don't know what they gave me, but at the time it wasn't a Shirley Temple.
Right.
If you remember Shirley Temple, that was people who wanted to seem like they were drinking a cocktail and have a Coke and put a cherry in it.
Right.
This wasn't it. It did a good job.
Whatever it was, it knocked you out. Whatever it was, it knocked you out
Oh,
for
yeah,
a long time.
It was Friday afternoon when I woke up. Then I had a hard time because I wasn't there, and when they started all this, they gave away all my underwear, all my shirts, everything. I didn't have. I had to wear a sheet around. But the guys remind us, the survivors remind us now and then.
Yeah.
Thank you for the orange juice. They're a special breed, them guys. They've all become comedians because they figured August the 3rd, 1945, they were dead. So they're living on borrowed time, and they're going to make the most of it.
Right,
They're good.
right.
But they really love the Indianapolis. They'll tell you stories. Mrs. Crowe, Roosevelt loved them because it was their newest ship. And they loved him aboard. In fact, they were the only ship the U.S. Navy ever had that had a small bar. Evidently, Roosevelt liked a cocktail now and then. So they had a small bar in back of the place. And alongside the bar, they were the only ship in the Navy that had a elevator that could handle wheelchairs. They could of course, you can't believe everything they tell you.
Bill, this is my neighbor Bob Hippler. He also served in World War II in the Navy, and
Yeah.
I've sat with him many times and fascinated with his stories. And him too, very humble man, just like yourself. I'm honored to be sitting in this room with you.
What else could you
Right,
do?
the same thing. A very
That's
humble
right,
man,
Bill.
and
Everybody
you guys
knows
are true American
there's
heroes.
only so many heroes, and they're buried someplace.
Right.
Everybody else just help their comrade, help one another, and do the best you can.
We're shipmates forever, Bill.
That's right.
I'm honored to be sitting in this room with you.
You know, the amazing thing to me is, at the time, you don't think about it, but these guys, a lot of these guys Bill was saving, they're only 19, 20-year-old kids. And thanks to Bill, they got to live their full life, have kids.
She's down there, great grandchildren.
Now Bill goes to reunion and has her grandchildren thanking him, which is a great thing. That's what you call making an impact on people's lives, you know?
Commander Hashimoto, his grandchildren come to
Oh, yeah?
reunion, the last couple of reunions.
Hashimoto was the commander of the submarine.
Yeah,
Yeah. That sank.
that was the only ship he ever sunk in over 40
That's right.
years.
That's
Is
right.
that right?
They had no kills prior to that, and they sunk the Indianapolis. And you know, after that, the commander of that Japanese submarine, he even spoke up for the captain and said that, you know, it wasn't
What did
his
he do,
fault.
Bill? Hit him in the magazine?
What's that?
Did he hit him in the magazine with that
No,
torpedo?
the first torpedo took the tip of the bow almost off, and at the speed they were going, all they were doing was just taking on more water, more water, more water.
Oh, boy.
And the second hit the underneath the number 2 turret. It hit the Marines complement was up there and ship's cooks, and none of them got off. There was 39 Marine detachment aboard, and 30 of them died when that torpedo hit. There was only 9 Marines. In fact, there's only 2 of it that we meet with now. And to distinguish them aboard ship, they have the red survivors' helmets. And our ship, when we first went there, we had red helmets, and everybody thought we were Marines. So we threatened to take them to court. They called us Marines. But these 2 Marines, they're terrorists. They're holy terrorists. They're not really nice people, and their families. They raised them the same way.
That's great. You're a tough man. Oh,
Okay. I have books here if anybody wants a book. I'm sure Bill will give you his autograph if you ask him nice.
Yes, Bill.
I'm gonna buy it.
If you don't mind, I have a stamp made.
I have this scrapbook too. If anybody wants to look through that, that's a pretty interesting
I got it.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll
Get
fit
it
it.
together so that.
Absolutely.
Oh,
No, that's right, fine. Mine was stuck on my car.
Very pleased
It's
to
wrapped, but,
meet you, buddy.
Will always be shipmate.
Did he?
Huh?
Will always be shipmate.
Oh, you don't have to be aboard the same ship to be a shipmate. Anybody out there is a shipmate.
Oh, that's you. Haha.
Hey, how's everything? Geez, good to see you.
Bob, Robert Hepler,
Okay.
H-I-P-L-E-R.
And you live in
Where's the
Wanaque?
table? Oh, right here.
And you were also in the Navy during World War II?
Yes, I was.
You earlier, you were one calling me hero back there, right? You called me hero.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like you're pretty impressed by the story.
It's wild.
I said, it sounds like you're impressed by the story.
Oh, I really am.
I'm glad to hear that.
You know, you
also
can come to
get
next
the book.
council meeting, tell them to bring it with you, you can sit in the back and read it.
You know, there's not too many people would do that.
Karen, can you take a picture for me?
Sure, of
But
course
I
I
never
can.
had the honor to do it. I'm sure if I did, I would.
This is what I wanted to see, this is the one picture. No, it's fine.
Can I ask your age? How old are you?
83.
Congratulations.
Same age as Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, what he said.
You were also in the
He
Navy
meant
during
the
World
US
War II,
back
you
in
said.
the USS
Where
Bassett.
did you serve?
Because he was
In
saying
the,
the USS
North
Indianapolis.
Atlantic and the Pacific.
I was expecting
Thank you.
Yeah, so did I, that's what I'm looking, I'm staring and I'm saying, well, there's still a little bit
You
of
answered some of my questions.
the residue, but you figured
A plane overhead had seen, and then the
Yeah.
Bassett was dispatched.
Right. Well, Bassett among others. Whoever was in the area got the coordinates and they
Where was the picture that was
went out
Bill,
to,
that was, he was supposed to be in?
Right.
there's several ships involved in the rescue. I think I have them all listed in the book, but
well, the
Bill's ship was the biggest.
Yeah, that's it.
159
Yeah.
out of 317.
And it was a
Bill, I got a blank check in there. You
Oh,
know.
they got
It was 1197 on the ship.
Oh,
Right.
look at that.
I like
It's all right,
that.
1197 on the
Oh,
ship.
right.
Good evening,
Okay.
right over
317
here.
survived. And Bill's ship rescues 159.
What's your name?
Bob down.
These guys are pretty good
What's your
shape.
back?
Yeah, we worked out a deal, give somebody golden age, the cell tower. We worked out a deal there where the money for that the revenue for that was split between the Golden Age, the VFW, and the American Legion. So we got, they're in pretty good shape now.
I'm sorry, the Bassett Rescue.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mr. Schuman. How you doing?
Hey,
How you doing?
How did you get involved in helping him? with
Well,
that?
I'm a councilman,
Right.
and I was the chairman of the Veterans Committee, and one of the veterans, Angelo Miranda,
Right.
which I'm friends with his son, Bill, said they.
Okay, Bob, thank you.
All right, thank you.
He'll help me.
You were for a year, I'm
Sounds
talking
a lot
about
better,
you.
yeah.
It took from,
Yeah.
I started in
I can see
July
she's
of
working
2004,
hard.
where I went to work on it, and we got the medal,
I would
I think
imagine.
it was, actually, we got the notification that he was getting the medal
She
in
was still in
February
pajamas yesterday, 'cause I
2005.
think it's the first time I've seen her in pajamas in 10 years.
And it was a life-saving medal, what is it called?
U.S. Navy and Marine Corps Medal for Heroism.
7? Oh, can I get your autograph also?
The criteria for that medal is saving other people's lives while risking
Right,
your
yeah.
own.
Oh, you got your camera?
Yeah, I got my
Oh,
camera,
great,
so
great,
that's
that'll
all
be
right, then
great.
I can,
So how is he outed? As
Okay,
his
buddy.
murderer?
Take a picture with us, Bill, can you take a picture with
They
us?
came over to
Alright.
Tom?
said a word.
Tom, would you take a picture with us, please?
Yeah, sure.
Bob?
Excuse me. Please.
Let me stand this side.
let's see. There we go. Everybody smile, that's it. I'm gonna take one or two, because, just on the outside chance, because I don't have, oh, wait, never mind.
Oh, I'm so happy you got
Oh, look,
your
there
camera.
we go, I can see it now. Get a little closer. One more, just in case somebody wasn't
Wind up in
smiling.
Hollywood, though.
Gotcha.
We forgot to say cheddar, or cheese, or something like that.
Still, did you ever get caught up in the typhoons out there?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, they were.
The one,
Oh, my goodness.
Got a few
the
interesting
one
things
where
there.
the,
I got it yesterday, I couldn't even put it
Pittsburgh
down.
was it, what was that?
Absolutely fantastic.
That was earlier, then another one up the dam, up the Goya.
Oh.
Two of them.
Boy, I'll tell you, they were terrible. We
The
come
one
on.
that was down here, in the Manila area, took an
Those songs are nice.
LCBT, which is a big ship, and put it right up on the beach.
You're darn right.
And the cruise to Pittsburgh was 130-some foot of power.
Yeah. They really were bad.
Sounds like an amazing story.
Yeah, I'll give you
What's
one.
that?
Definitely sounds like you've been
Did you give
amazing
it back?
story.
We dumped all our ammo and everything over after they declared the war over, you know? And, so
Karen,
we
could
were
you email
anchored
that to
off of
Linda? You have
Guam.
Linda's email, right?
And,
No, I don't think so, I
the
do.
typhoon came in that
I don't
night,
think I do, but that's
cracked
all
an
right.
anchor.
Um,
So we had to take off out to sea.
yeah, let
We
me,
didn't
I'm
have
trying to
any
think, I have a
ballast
pen real
left.
quick. Yep, I do.
Yeah, yes,
What a
it's,
rock.
Everybody thought that put up
Another
most
little note I have.
They-
Ceremony. That's
Yeah.
it, ceremonial
But
case.
if they tangled, he went under.
Yeah,
got
no,
it.
that's for me, for my brother for Christmas.
Dean,
Oh, Bill.
2311,
That night. When did you realize you had to jump in the cover that night?
at Ox.
He's a hero.
That's same as me, okay.
No, it was,
I know what
I
it is,
had
I'll
heard
online.
my
Okay,
shoulder.
right.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Guy out.
That's easy. It's a simple, easy request, so.
I didn't jump in the water.